Hi, thanks for watching my video. I had a comment recently in one of my videos asking if I could show how to move stuff from one level to another. I've got about 3 or 4 videos on this topic. This specific question was, can you move a level from one level to another? And not really. I think the better way to say that, can you move props from one level to another, aka, DAEs? And so the first thing you want to do is figure out what you want to move. We're going to move everything in this level. This is Gridmap V2. And before we do this, I want to say it doesn't matter what level I use as an example. I'm going to move from, let's say, Gridmap V2 to, I guess we'll go to West Coast, USA. But it doesn't matter. The process is the same. If I go from Johnson Valley to Small Island or East Coast, USA to Utah, it's the same. So I don't have to use the specific map that you want in the video. It's the same. That's number one. And number two is whatever folder you decide to move over, you have to make sure that same folder isn't in the other level. First, we need to figure out where the products are at. So let's get started. So just highlight something and then look over here and it will tell you the location of the item. Everything as far as DAs will most likely be in art, shapes, and then the folder name. In this case, it's grid. So if you click on another one, you'll also see that over here, it is also in grid. So it looks like everything, all of these shapes, pipes, everything is in grid. Everything is going to be in the grid folder. So let's do F11, and let's get out of here. So again, we're going to go from Gridmap V2 to West Coast, USA. So here we are on my desktop. The first thing, I have a shortcut to the levels folder. Makes it easier to get to that, but you may not have that. So I'm going to show you how to get to those folders the long way. C drive, Program 86, Steam, Steam Apps, Common, BeamNG, Content, Levels, and we want Gridmap V2. Don't accidentally open up Garage V2. We want Gridmap V2. Open up that. Levels, Gridmap V2, Art, Shapes, and there's Grid. So we're going to take Grid and drag it to the desktop and just drop it off. It's way over here. Let's put it over here. So now we are going to take that folder and put it into West Coast, USA. So we're going to go to Levels, West Coast, USA, Art, and Shapes, and we're going to verify that there is no grid map folder or grid folder already in here. You can see there's a buildings and stuff like that. So objects, those are very common. So there isn't one here. Next thing I want to do is I want to open up a folder in West Coast, USA and get the proper spelling. I know it's West Coast. I get that. But I like to go in here. So once I get over here and start editing this, I don't make any mistakes. Because the more my fingers touch the keyboard and type, the more likely I am to make an error. So let's find the materials folder. Open that. And let's just highlight West Coast, USA. Turn screen, hit Control C. We can shut that down. We no longer need that. Shut that down. So we're going to leave this open, but we can go up, make sure we are in shapes, and this is where we're going to drop this folder in here. So now we're going to edit our grid folder. Open that up. Open up your materials, and I recommend you use C++ for this. Now look at the location of everything here. And you can see the address is wrong. It needs to say Levels, West Coast, USA, Art, Shapes, Grid. And obviously it says Levels, Grid Map. So we need to change Gridmap V2. So let's highlight this till it turns green. and it will highlight all of them on the map on the page. Hit Control H, and this little window will pop up, and it's going to say find what Gridmap V2 replace with. So get your cursor, put it right there, and hit Control V, and it will paste West Coast USA. Spelled properly, it's got the underscores, everything's already done for you. The less your fingers touch the keyboard, the less likely you are to make an error. Hit Replace All. You can see it did 81 occurrences. Shut this down and hit Control S, or you can go to File and Save. I like to shut this down and shut down Notepad++, and then I reopen this, and I just like to visually look and see that the changes I just made indeed took effect. And you can see it says levels, West Coast USA, shapes, grid, da da da. Okay, so it's done. So let's shut this down. Now here is our edited grid map folder. And again, we are in West Coast USA levels, West Coast USA, art, shapes. Everything goes into your shapes folder. So take your grid. Oh, and let me just say one more thing. This is another thing that the last person that just did this made a mistake. Make sure you're not dragging this over here and dropping it into the blue section. Don't even drop it over here on any other folder. That's what the other guy was doing, and it took me forever to figure out what he was doing wrong. You're going to drag it and drop it into objects, and you're going to go to your shapes folder in West Coast USA and say, hey, I can't find my grid folder. Yeah, that's because you just dropped it into your another folder. So always drag it into a white neutral area down here. And then when you let it go, just wait. Confirm that you see the grid folder outside of another folder. Pay attention to details like right there, grid. So we know everything's done right. No mistakes, no errors. So now let's launch BeamNG and go to West Coast USA and see if everything worked. All right, so here we are in West Coast USA. And you know what would be a really cool thing to do with all those shapes from Gridmap V2 is to build like a parkour course in this level. Like have your vehicle drive from this rooftop and go down those shapes and come onto this rooftop, drive over to that one, drive over to that one, that one. But anyways, we got to see if it worked first. F11, bring open your asset browser. Go to, make sure you go into West Coast USA. Don't open up this art and try to look for shapes and in your grid folder because you won't find it. You have to go into West Coast USA, art, shapes, and the title of our folder was grid, and there's all of our shapes. The materials and everything are there. Very easy to do. It's not hard at all. But let me show you another common error that is often made from people when they email me. When we copied that folder, that grid folder over from Gridmap V2 to West Coast USA, I made sure that there was no grid folder in there. Let's say you took a folder named miscellaneous. Instead of grid, it was miscellaneous, and you went to your level. Let's say we go to Spencer Johnson's level, mods, and let's go to Downhill Mayhem. So let's say you're in Download Mayhem, and this is called miscellaneous, and you want to drag it over here. Let's go look at the folder. Levels, art, shapes. Look at all the miscellaneous folders. You know why they're labeled 2 through 11? Because when Spencer Johnson copied miscellaneous over, there was already a miscellaneous folder there. I mean, he made the miscellaneous, but I'm saying if you copied over to Utah, for example, and there was a miscellaneous, you'd have to rename it. You can't drag a folder, a miscellaneous, over here because it's just going to rewrite your miscellaneous. So let's call this MIS, miscellaneous. So let's say we wanted to drop this over here. So he has miscellaneous 11. So we would have to call this miscellaneous 12. Right? But now we have to change the address that's in here in our materials folder. So now grid, we'd have to highlight grid, hit Control H, find grid and replace with what? What did we just rename our folder? Miscellaneous 12. And replace all. Then we would have to go to West Coast USA, hit Control H, find what? West Coast USA, and change to, I don't know what he named this, but we'll just say it, Spencer's map. And then hit replace all. And then hit Control S, save this. So now it would say levels, Spencer's map, art, shapes, miscellaneous 12, and then the product, that's a PNG, and then you got your PNGs, and then you hit Control S and save it. Then grab your miscellaneous 12 and drop it over there. And make sure you don't drop it. Remember what I said. Don't drag it over here and drop it in this area because it's just going to fall into another folder. You can drag it and drop it over here, or drag it and drop it down there. And once you drag and drop it, wait for it to load and make sure you see it here. That is, again, that's the other issue I just went through with another viewer, and I had to, he gave me remote access to his desktop, and I watched what he was doing and saw the error right away. And this works, one more thing I want to say, this works for any version. There's no difference between versions 0.2.4 and 0.2.3.2, 35, 36, 40. This process is the same no matter what version BeamNG is. I want to throw that out there too because I see that in the comments too. So anyways, I hope this helps. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.